Yeah, that's right. We're back. Can't get rid of me that quickly. I wasn't feeling well today, but you know what? I'm here anyway. Neil.
I'm here as well.
Oh yeah. Well, you went on a vacation and then you were like, "Oh, I don't have signal because I'm deep in a cavern." Next time, bring a satellite something.
I have been back since then.
I'm still bitter.
Oh,
Welcome
okay.
to another Tech Talk Tuesday. I am this guy. Ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Boom.
Ooh, the Matt Ray.
Oh, snap. Joined this time and forevermore by Neil Tardy. Thank you so much. So we actually have kind of a lot of things to go through today that are I find very interesting. If you don't find them interesting, then just shut up about it. So there's that.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and just get started.
Yeah, so the first thing we have today is Microsoft kind of throwing a jab here at Apple, and it's not kind of a jab. They really are throwing a punch here. Basically calling Apple out on their App Store policies, which I find, frankly, hilarious. But yeah, Microsoft came out and basically said, here are 10 principles moving forward for our app stores. Basically, Apple is basically saying, or Microsoft, sorry, is basically saying like, yeah, you can still use our store and we'll charge you a fee, but like we're not going to stop you from using whatever payment system you want. So basically what they're saying is if Epic would have done what they did on Apple's platform by basically creating an in-app store, Microsoft would not have stopped them from doing so, would not have removed it from their store. So yeah, this is very interesting. I think that this is probably partially to do with a lot of companies coming out, such as like Spotify, Epic, obviously, Tile, Match, and some others have been coming out against Apple on this, basically saying like, hey, this isn't cool. You should not be doing this. And yeah, so I think that this is actually very, very interesting in that a larger company than Apple now is basically saying like, nah, you should not be doing this, and we will not be doing this, and here's how we are going to run our app stores. Which I was reading through the 10 principles, and like it's a pretty like objective and measured approach to running an app store. Like there was nothing on there that I was like, oh man, like what are they talking about here? Like it was all like, okay, yep, that makes sense. Okay, yep, that makes sense. And I think something that I find very interesting is that any place that they could put in, this will be an objective like thing. There will be like little to no subjectivity on this, which I found very interesting because like Apple, obviously, depending on who you get through the App Store approval process, it could be a nightmare, or they could just be like, cool. And it could be different each time you go through the process.
Yeah, we've definitely been the victim of that.
Yeah, we have definitely been the victim of that a few times. So I find this fascinating that another company is coming out that has its own app store, basically saying what you guys are doing is wrong. This is how we're going to do it. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's interesting, you know, Microsoft putting at least we'll see, I guess, their money where their mouth is. I still go back to I don't know. I'm still very torn on this.
Yeah.
As a small developer, I definitely want more open access, but I also feel like if I build a thing, I want to be able to like capitalize on it. And I don't know. I just don't know that charging a 30% fee and requiring people to use your payment processor is really that abusive. But I don't know. What do I know?
The interesting thing about this as well is that Microsoft also addressed the fact that they will continue to charge developers 30% fees on its own Xbox store. Basically saying that like consoles are different than like PCs and phones.
Oh yeah, no, they're way different.
Yeah, and like, yes, while Microsoft, Sony, not Nintendo actually. Nintendo actually makes consoles at a profit, but Nintendo and Sony, or Nintendo, Microsoft and Sony actually create and sell their consoles at a loss. So this is how they recoup some of their money.
Right.
So I'm sure that that's where they're at, but it's also kind of like talking out of both sides of your mouth there a little bit too. So we'll see. We'll see. I just found this very interesting as I was reading through this week. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, AMD has revealed its new Zen 3 architecture, starting with its 5000 series processor. I think this is really cool because I actually got to look at these. They've been able to actually increase speeds and kind of pack more into them by something like 16%. I see it there, 19% increase in instructions per cycle. So I think that's fantastic, all while keeping it in the same package size, the AM4, which I'm looking over at my desktop, and it has the AM4 slot. So I was already kind of interested in looking at the Ryzen 7s, but yeah, this really might make it worthwhile. So for me, the big things were the price, right? So if you look down here at this chart, the handy dandy chart they put together, the Ryzen 9, the 5950X, which is a 16-core 32-thread, which is just insane. Interesting that the price is still like $800. Like this, we're not into like this multi-$1,000 thing, which granted, like you go Threadripper or something like that, you're going to get there real quick, right? And so I understand that. But it's interesting that this architecture is available for sub $1,000, right, price point, even though they note that the prices have gone up by about $50, right? So I think this is cool because you and I were actually just talking before the show about crypto mining and some of the stuff that we've been playing around with, and some of those are ASIC resistant and thus like GPU resistant as well, and are still using old kind of processor power, right, for proof of work. And this is kind of interesting, for people that are mining Monero, for instance. This could be kind of an interesting bump in their output. Plus, it's fun to play games, right? And it's fun to not have your Windows or whatever machine you're running like stall out when you double click on something. Let's not forget that. So anyway, I'm excited to see this. Looks like they don't become available until November 5th. But did I already sign up to be notified when they're available? Yeah, I did. Are you on a, do you use, you don't have, actually you have MacBooks, right? So you are still like on Intel kind of platform.
Yeah. So, and I've been Intel even with like machines for a while, or towers or desktops, whatever you want to call them, for a while. So yeah, I don't know if this is enough to switch me, from Intel. It might be though. They're catching up. I think is where I'm at right now. Is that they're calling this the world's fastest gaming processor? I think is
for today.
Yeah, for today, right? But it still doesn't end up topping. Like if you overclock it, it still doesn't end up clocking higher than Intel's best chip.
Right, in raw clock speeds. Yeah, they actually talk about that in that article. So
yeah.
In raw clock speed it doesn't, but in benchmarking it actually performs pretty well, except in there is some cases for sure that it still lags behind.
Yeah, and all those benchmarkings are obviously from AMD. So we'll see once third parties kind of get a hold of these and see what benchmarks truly come out of that. I'd like to see some third party stuff, but yeah, this is cool. I'm glad that they're catching up on the CPU side. Obviously, they will need to be coming out with new GPUs as well, because NVIDIA obviously just dropped theirs. So we're expecting an announcement fairly soon on those as well. But yeah, so we'll see. I don't know if this is quite enough for me to make a change on what I would build, but it's certainly making it more of a conversation, we'll say, than it was previously. So
Yeah, for me, they got a captive audience, so I'm in.
That's true. If you already have the architecture, and I think it's really huge what you hit on this earlier, that they made it fit in the same slot. I think that's huge. I think that'll make adoption like much easier, and I think you'll see a lot more adoption because of that as well. So I think that was a really, really good call on their part. So it wouldn't be a Tech Talk Tuesday without talking about something privacy related. This is a little disheartening for myself, but not surprising either. We're obviously from the United States. So the United States is joining 6 other countries in a new call for backdoor encryption access. This is not the first time that they have tried to do this, but it is just the latest iteration of it. So Matt and I were talking about this before, and to me, it kind of feels like the people that are trying to make this decision don't actually understand how end-to-end encryption works, or they do and just don't care, which is probably the more likely thing, unfortunately. So obviously, if they created so what they want to do with this, I guess we should explain this a little bit. So you have some sort of data, and if you're transmitting that data and it's fully end-to-end encrypted, no one can actually like get in and see what that data actually is, right? But if you had a backdoor access, or somebody like the government has backdoor access, they could intercept that and then get into it through that backdoor and say, okay, what is this data actually? I know a lot of people are on the fence, are not necessarily on the fence, but say, well, I have nothing to hide, so why should I care? These are your rights. Like, you have rights to these things, in my opinion. But like, you should not want to give those rights up.
Well, I would argue everybody has things to hide. I think with advertiser tracking, I think with everybody, there was a public outcry with the kind of data that was being collected, via Facebook, through the kind of insecure APIs and things like that. And this is really no different. I mean, there's a lot of elements out there in just casual browsing and in casual interactions and in messaging that I can see where you would want full end-to-end at all times. And I think we're a far way out of there. But I would argue everybody kind of has something to hide. And if you don't, great, that's fine. And then this doesn't affect you, and you don't worry about it. But I think this is big deal. And the argument is going to continue to be is safety, right, versus privacy, right? So the idea is that these countries assert, and I follow their logic, that by being able to break in and get access to devices and channels, they can often see, well, let's say like terrorist communications, drug communications, use your imagination, anything that's against the law, communications around those things, and without some way to force encryption to be weaker, or to give them kind of the bypass lock, so to speak. They argue that we're in danger of no longer being able to, view those communications through the NSA, CIA, all the 3-letter acronyms that we throw at things. So I don't know. I honestly don't know enough to know how much that actually holds water. What I do know is, you and I were talking that even if this were to go through, right? I mean, we're so many steps away from being able to block all the channels by which you would do some sort of secure communication, right? Because I mean, what are we going to do? Just like, let's start doing packets over shortwave radio or something, or I just feel like there's there'll be an Internet 3 kind of sublayer or something like that. I don't know. We'll start using pigeons. It's going to be wonderful. They leave a trail though everywhere they go. So I don't know. This just feels like kind of a fruitless cat and mouse game. I'm not really sure that anyone wins per se, but I definitely think some people lose, and I tend to think it's everybody.
Yeah, and the really interesting statement that is made at the end is the countries are saying we challenge the assertion that public safety cannot be protected without compromising privacy or cybersecurity. That's really, like, if you boil down what they believe, that's what it is. But for somebody who just kind of generally knows about encryption and how it works, I would challenge that heavily. And I am not an expert by any means, right? So I think perhaps maybe if I were more versed in this, I could give a little more of an argument on it. But with my knowledge, I would just say, like, I just don't think that that's true. Like giving someone, any person, even an or entity, a backdoor opens that back door to everyone. So, like, if you create a backdoor, somebody else that you do not expect will find it.
So what tends to happen?
That's just what it is. And so it's a little concerning to me that this is continuing to move forward. I know it will continue to move forward because these states have very, in their mind, real reasons that that they need this. But for somebody who has nothing to hide, but still wants my data to be secure and private to me, yeah, I don't like the idea of this. So
sure. Well, I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, this has been tried and failed, and continues to be packed back up. So, you know, the waves continue to crest and fall. So we'll just keep an eye on that.
We will definitely see.
Yeah. Quick mention that obviously today is Tech Talk Tuesday, and what came with that was an Apple event. We're actually collecting our thoughts about the iPhone event, and also there was the HomePod, like the Mini, and you know, all the different stacked and layers of the Pro, and like there's a Max, and then there's a small one, and there's the Mini. There's now a Mini iPhone, right? Which had been called the SE, I feel like before. It had just been a little underwhelming, but now it's got an official kind of designation of Mini. So some interesting things. We're going to collect our thoughts, and we'll be back with you next week to kind of cover some of those. Along with that, we've been in talk with some of our friends that we've mentioned crypto really a few times that we've been getting involved with. And I know this is a busy screen. I know there's a lot going on, but our friends over at Coin Miners, we've recently been in talks with them about creating kind of a multi-part series potentially about kind of crypto mining and what is cryptocurrency, and really where does that stand in the economy. You hear a lot of things like pros and cons, and there's news, and there's some scary, there's fear and doubt that, that's kind of spread sometimes, but then there's also maybe overhype, right? You probably hear about Bitcoin a lot, but then it's like, are people really still using Bitcoin? Like, what does that look like? So what we're going to do is partner up with these good folks and put together, I think, a little bit of a series, and maybe even have them on the show to really talk through what are they providing, what are they engaged with, and really where do they kind of see the industry going, which is going to have a lot more insight than, well, at least me, maybe Neil, I don't know. But so I think that'll be a good conversation, and I hope you look forward to that as well. But that's really it for me.
Yeah, I think that's all we have today. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on anything or you want to check out Coin Miners, those links will be in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. While you're there, go ahead and give us a follow, subscribe. That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you have any questions that you want Matt and I to answer, tech or non-tech, which is probably scary, go ahead and drop us a DM. Our Twitter handles are below. We check those, and we're looking for questions that you guys have. That way we can answer. So with that, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
I'm excited about some crypto talk. Are you?
Oh, I'm very excited.